Let's go ahead and talk about Valvetronic exhaust. What are they? What do they do? What can they do for you? And ultimately, what are the benefits for you? First of all, we should probably discuss what a Valvetronic exhaust actually is. To break it down in simple terms, a Valvetronic exhaust is a regular exhaust system with an exhaust cutout. A bunch of videos on the internet started popping up of people with exhaust cutouts, and it blew everybody's mind because it was the first exhaust innovation that anybody has ever really made. When that hit the internet, that was kind of a big deal for everybody because we've never really seen it before. In today's day and age, most high-end cars come with a Valvetronic exhaust. They come with a muffler bypassing valve, essentially, and that's exactly what a Valvetronic exhaust is a valve that bypasses the muffler completely. This valve incorporated into the exhaust is wired in through a controller, and at the press of a button, or typically wide open throttle or in specific sport mode settings, your car will open that up automatically. With aftermarket, you have to install a system to get that to work properly. So you have to wire up a Valvetronic switch, you need to wire up the solenoid, you need to make sure you have a vacuum source. With modern technology, this has been changed to an electronically controlled valve versus a vacuum controlled valve. Now, this is pretty beneficial for many reasons, as you don't have to wire up a solenoid, you don't have to run a vacuum source, you don't have to do any of that. You still do have to wire up a switch to obviously control it, but this makes it a lot easier for installing it if you're just having to do a switch and a controller that plugs into a 12-volt source. Overall, a Valvetronic system is pretty simple if you think about it. It's just a valve that bypasses the muffler system that's controlled by an actuator and a controller. Now that we know what a Valvetronic exhaust is, let's go ahead and discuss what it can actually do for you. With the Valvetronic exhaust, you can open the valve and have a straight dump out of the exhaust that bypasses the muffler completely, as stated previously. And what this will do, this will allow your exhaust to flow freely without any restrictions whatsoever. Because of this, you're gaining horsepower as you open that valve because the exhaust is not being restricted, and that means your turbo is able to flow freely. Having a quiet exhaust can actually be pretty useful. Whether it's your stock exhaust or an aftermarket exhaust, it's still helpful to have the variation and be able to have a quiet exhaust versus a loud exhaust. This is a big deal because when you're cruising through your neighborhood at night, it's probably not too courteous to be having your exhaust open, blasting for the neighbors to hear. Now, when you're out on the trails and you're ripping with your friends, that's a different story. You can open up that valve and be as loud as you want because you're not bothering anybody, you're not causing a disturbance. Now, there are a few different variations of Valvetronic exhaust, whether it's a dump pipe or it's an actual exhaust system with a muffler included. So let's go ahead and go over the differences between the two. A dump pipe is exactly that. All it's going to do is dump the exhaust right before the actual exhaust system. Now, this means you can run whatever exhaust system you want, whether it has a valve or not, which I don't really recommend running two valves. It doesn't make sense, but if you want, you can certainly run it. But having that is very useful because you can run whatever exhaust you want while also being able to retain the Valvetronic functionality. Say you already bought a race pipe for your machine and you don't really want to go and buy another one. Now, you can always buy a Valvetronic exhaust system that has a muffler included with it. By doing this, you're essentially doing the same thing as a dump pipe would, but just a little further down the system. It's still going to dump the exhaust right before the muffler, but it's built into the actual exhaust system, rather than being a separate component before the muffler. I actually wrote an article on this. If you want to go and read it, it'll be down in the description below. Also in the description, you'll find agency power Valvetronic exhaust systems for both Can-Am Maverick X3 and Razor XP Turbo. Take it easy, everyone. Peace.